18,000 person city. All right, let's get started here.
Yeah, sure.
Matthew Petkovich is the founder of Cyclops Space Tech, a research-driven Substack focused on the company's technologies and market trends and investment implications shaping the commercial space economy. His work helps investors and operators understand where real value may accumulate in the space tech, from LEO satellites and launch systems to data, connectivity, defense, and orbital infrastructure. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi, nice to be here.
Good. So, got some questions for you. So, let's start with this one. When
Hmm.
people say space economy, what do they usually think and misunderstand first?
Well, they assume that space is just some kind of rockets. They know about SpaceX, that's for sure. But the real space economy is actually a lot more than that. It's actually what happens like after the rocket lands, or more precisely, when the satellites reach the orbit. So the launch is just the delivery track, while the value is in connectivity, the data, the imagery, the navigation signals, the infrastructure. So everything around that, and top of the launch. So most retail investors are usually anchor on SpaceX because it's like dramatic and visible.
Right.
But launch is actually like just one of the thinner margin businesses in the whole stack of the space economy.
Well, let's talk
So,
a little bit more about that. When you compare SpaceX and their Starlink product and Amazon's Project Kuiper, what's the real
mhm.
difference investors should understand?
Well, SpaceX is here for already some time, while Amazon Kuiper is like pre-revenue, let's say. They are defining how many satellites they will launch in the orbit. They don't have that much, of revenue visibility and experience and knowledge in space, I would say. Well, SpaceX is like, uh, the company that everybody knows, and it has already like more than 10,000 of, satellites in orbit. So it it serves a lot of customers already. So that's like the main difference that I would say between the two.
Yeah, and I noticed that. So with Amazon, they're probably going to get to 10,000 with their recent purchase, and it
Mhm.
looks like Starlink is going to move from 10,000 to 40,000 if that is accurate prediction on the part of Elon Musk. So that
Mhm.
really gives them a big leg up
Yeah.
on this whole process. So kind of looks like there's definitely room for at least a duopoly, for two companies in this type of environment. And I think that they just announced, I don't have the details, but they just announced yesterday that the big three American uh, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile are
Mhm.
teaming up with a partner for the exact same product. But it kind of seems like they're going to be behind, in my opinion. But let's move on to the next question. Um, is SpaceX dominance then in low Earth orbit good or bad for the rest of the public space market?
Well, I would say both. On one view, the SpaceX really did spark the space tech market. So it did help like all the other companies actually come to space. So what it did, it lowered the launch costs of putting something in the orbit. So by doing that, it actually enabled all other companies to compete uh, more easily with one another.
Right.
But it also uh, took like a lot of capital with it, and crushed all the, let's say, smaller players in this sector. So it's like very dominant software. So that's like the bad side, right? It doesn't leave a lot of space for other launch providers, but with the demands going up, there is like a lot of need for other companies to emerge in this space as well. So
Okay.
if you to give you like one example, if you want to put something in orbit, you can either go with SpaceX, that you will wait for like 2 years, or you can take some riskier road that is more costly and put something like a bit sooner. So that's like real world example how it functions.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
So, kind of pivoting a little bit here, if you had to separate space companies into infrastructure, data, communications, launch, and lunar, where do you think the best returns are going to be and show up?
Uh, yeah, I mean, when you look at segments like that, I would say the it's usual type of logic in space as in other industries. So the one subsector that would serve the most customers, so that is able to meet like the demand of customers, right? So I would say the data and connectivity has like a lot of potential when you look at like larger customer base. But if you look at infrastructure launch, so these larger companies, they need to also do business for all these other companies. So they need to follow like each other closely to be able to build that economy together. So it depends what is like your investment horizon, I would say, and risk tolerance. So if you look at something, to get your returns earlier, then I would look at more like connectivity data based companies. But if you want to look like at like longer time horizon, then some let's say longer return companies would probably come into your picture. So that's like the case.
That's actually my follow-up question was if we're looking at a 2-year scenario versus
Mhm.
say a 7-year scenario, how does that play out with your answer?
Well, in 2 years, you have a lot of companies that are currently providing, services to the customers. You can look at all the, defense companies or connectivity companies. So they already like are providing services to us. There's like Starlink that is like increasing their revenue share and customer base every year. uh, that's like the customer focused business. You have uh, SpaceX. I mean, like Starlink is part of the SpaceX. So but I'm trying to make like a bit distinction here. SpaceX is also providing like all these, let's say, launch services to other companies that are putting something into orbit. So these are companies that are already making revenue from both top line and bottom line. But then, if you look at some longer time horizon, like 5 years that you mentioned, this would be like some water-based companies, or even further out, like Mars-based or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Um, so let's go back to the cellular to direct device. Um,
Mhm.
how real is that opportunity, and how far away are we from mass adoption? I mean, this is such a game changer for third world countries that don't have infrastructure, right? They don't
Yeah.
have, cellular towers or cellular service. So this opens up just not only the opportunity for people to finally get uh, a cell phone, for example, or some other device, but also it opens up the economy of those
Mm.
countries and locations. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it opens like another area of economy to be developed. So I would maybe look at just how recently that came into picture. So just in April 2023, which was what 3 years ago, the company AST Space Mobile completed its first ever two-way voice call directly to the smartphone using its Blue Walker satellite. And to be clear about that, why that actually matters is there is like no special hardware, no satellite phone, no extra equipment. So just device that everybody has, and that's like a real breakthrough happening. But still, company like that needs a lot of development to for mass adoption, uh, which was your question, right? And for that, I think it will take like 5 to 8 years at least. I
Oh,
can see, yeah,
okay.
I can see like more companies coming, emerging into this space right now because um, it is very interesting to have. There is like a lot lower costs that would happen if you don't have any, intermediate device, right? You would just have your phone and be able to connect with satellite from anywhere you want. But I see in this like first years, I see more revenue, more top line, and also the profit coming from some areas that are unused, that are harder for like terrestrial telecoms to put their towers there. So these areas would be first to benefit from that, and the companies would be the first to get the revenue from these customers. So it's
Gotcha.
like two-way.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So before we pivot into some individual companies and stocks and opportunities, I wanted to give a brief description of some changes that have occurred within Stock Talks podcasts. We're now called the Hard Stack from Stock Talk, no longer Powers Power. And just a quick request that you like and subscribe and give me a heart. Give us both a heart as you're watching, and there'll be more to come relative to the hard stack. But I wanted to make sure I put that out there to everybody as kind of a bit of a opportunity for people to understand the changes. So let's go into some individual companies now. AST Space Mobile, a lot of excitement around it. What has to go right for the stock to justify the optimism?
Oh, I would say, I touched briefly about that, but there are like several things that has to have to go like in sequence, right? The first one is the Bluebird satellite constellation needs to be deployed on schedule and perform as designed, and that is actually like the highest risk in space companies, execution. Uh, because a lot of that is not developed yet. So they need to have like some kind of innovation and then be able to execute on that. So there are also commercial agreements um, that, with of course, major carriers that need to convert into real revenue contracts. And the company needs to demonstrate also that the subscriber economics actually works at scale. So these are three things that I would mention, for them to actually reach, that kind of scale that to be like even more, let's say, uh, even more like promising in eyes of investors.
Gotcha. I got actually a two-part question on this next one, so let me hit you with both before you answer. So, Rocket
Mhm.
Lab is probably the most respected public space company out there. It's a launch company, an infrastructure company, something bigger maybe. What would need to happen for Rocket Lab to begin and become a true five bagger, meaning 5x the stock price from its current levels?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Rocketop, it did perform very well in the last few weeks when it's announced results. So that's something in focus of a lot of people right now. What is happening there, why they are growing so much, and so on. So I would say that Electron, which is a reliable small launch vehicle that needs to perform very well. But still, if you look at the segments that Rocktop has, uh, they are still like a lot in spacecraft components and systems. Um, they also had the acquisition of companies like Solaro for solar power and the development of photon satellite buses that shows actually how this company is expanding from launch into satellite manufacturing. So they're becoming like a virtually integrated company for already some time. But if the Neutron rocket reaches its operational status, that would, definitely move rocket up into medium lift vehicles and allow it to compete for a much larger slice of the launch market, which is
Gotcha.
very hot right now. Yeah.
Yeah, good answer. Thank you. Um, so Hawkeye 360 focuses on
Mhm.
radio frequency data, intelligence, a better business than optical satellite imagery.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at RF intelligence, it has like some structural advantages worth noting.
Okay.
It captures signals that optical signals, let's say optical system signals cannot see. So it works through cloud cover at night, and it also has obvious defense and maritime applications that come with premium pricing and of course long-term contract durations. So the defense community generally values RF data in ways that are harder to replicate than the optical ones, and that's actually the advantage of Hawkeye.
Gotcha. I just recently purchased a little bit of it, so hopefully it
Yeah.
does well. Um, so let's talk about defense spending. Where does it fit
Mhm.
into the space investments thesis? I mean, we've obviously seen, that there's been an opportunity for SpaceX, certainly.
Mhm.
But how about some of their continuing opportunities within not only the United States, but maybe other countries that we're not thinking about, especially here in America, where I am? Um, and, you know, is there going to be opportunity for a lot of other companies? And if so, which ones?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at defense spending, it's a large part of space tech, um, uh, especially now when there is like a lot of going on in this sector. So I can see like a lot of companies actually that didn't have like defense part of their, let's say, revenue now are either expanding or looking how they can provide services to capture some revenue. Uh, so yeah, it's big part of space. And it's actually what keeps several companies viable while commercial market develops. As this is actually like final frontier, so all the things that are happening are pretty much useful for the government for their own purposes. So that's why it happens. So I usually track like let's say contracts from there because it gives me like visibility to some companies, what is happening and where what they will develop, because all these contracts that are happening, when the governments uh, uh, need something, they usually procure that from the space companies, and that gives me the visibility. Where these companies will uh, go on, right? Which direction they will take. and how they will connect it with space as well. So I mean, there are a few established defense relationships. The first example is Rocket Lab. You have Redwire, Intuitive Machines. There are also others that have like a baseline of revenue that is uh, relatively insulated from commercial market timing, and a lot of these companies depend a lot on defense. So and it's big part of the chain. I think I'm like tracking for Rocket Lab specifically how much of revenue they come from the government and how much from the commercial segment. And the defense, the government segment is growing rapidly in the recent times.
Well, you just mentioned two more stocks that I own, Redwire. Um, so we don't hear, at least here in America, we don't hear about what you're located in Europe, um,
Mhm.
and we don't hear anything about what the European countries are doing relative to space. Are they just that far behind, or is there something going on that we're not hearing out here in North America?
You mean like
In,
overall?
in terms
Uh,
of their usage of these companies or their own companies that
mhm.
are
I,
European based that are going to rival some of these ones we've talked about so far today. Um,
mhm.
is there are they just that far behind, or are we just not hearing here in North America what they're up to in terms of utilizing either some of the companies we've been discussing today or some of their own companies that are home based there?
I mean, it's definitely that when you compare like Europe and US, US is much more like developed when it comes to space tech. So if you look at the budget, it's like 4 or 5 times bigger budget on annual basis. So there is that much of revenue. Uh, the biggest institution that you have in Europe is European Space Agency that actually, gives contracts to all the space companies. So if you are interested what is happening like on Europe, I would recommend maybe checking like their page a bit and the news. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the companies, Europe is actually following US, what is happening there and what is developing. So they are like trying to keep track with the US, I would say, in some sense, as all the other countries are. So I mean, US has the biggest budget by far, so they're developing the most.
Gotcha. Thank you. So, two-part question.
Mhm.
Which public space company do you think has the clearest path to real profitability, and which one has the best story but the weakest business model?
That's a hard question.
I know. That's why I left
I
it
know.
towards the end.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I would say Rocket Lab for the first one. So it's based on a combination of a proven launch vehicle. It also has real revenue. It has a growing system business, and we can see that it has also a management team that can execute consistently relative to peers. Uh, by the way, this is not investment advice. This is just my opinion.
Thank you for
And yeah, I just and it also has like multiple revenue streams, a track record uh, of hitting milestones. We can see recently that the public really really observed that what is happening, and the stock price did increase. Um, and when you compare it with some other companies that are in space, Rocketweb is actually like the only currently the only public company that is providing like launch services. So you have SpaceX, you have Rocket Lab, right? that that will be like in June, both on the market. And you know, the biggest thing that I would say with this company is that they are putting a lot of money in development of Neutron. So it will all depend on that. If Neutron will work, this company might, be even larger in market value. So that's something that we will see. Uh, but if you're looking for like a public space company that can actually demonstrated it can build a real business uh, rather than like a vision deck, I would say that that's the first one to look at and see what you think about like all the other space companies.
So you mentioned the IPO for SpaceX,
Hmm.
which is slated for, I believe, June 13th as of right now. So, what does that do, in your opinion, to the rest of the space company economy? Does it lift it? Does it hurt it because a lot of money ends up going into the investment of SpaceX, so there's less opportunity for money to be spent on these companies we've been talking today, Hawkeye 360, Redwire? I mean, does it pull it up or does it flatten out and drop? Because there's going to end up being a lot of money being placed on SpaceX.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will flatten these other companies down, because I think it will actually like spark up the uh, like space market. I would say it like that, because yeah, it will take like a lot of capital. For now, the estimate is it will be worth like 1.75 trillion
Right.
of USD. So yeah, I mean that's a lot of money going in, but I don't think it will, that money will be sourced from the space industry, but it might source it from like the other industries as well, because everybody knows SpaceX, right? And it might put like some light on the space industry overall.
Yeah, I mean, it just appears that right now, anyway, it's pulling the rest of the stock shares of space companies up.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't know what that looks like 6 months from now relative to what SpaceX is going to suck out of the investing marketplace. But um, so, kind of a closing question for you. If you had to tell intermediate investors one thing before they buy any space stock, what would you tell them before they hit the button and launch their money into?
yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you see what I did there?
Uh, yeah, I mean, for sure, understand which phase of the business you're actually buying. Space companies sit at very different points on the curve from vision to cash flow. And everybody who analyze some space company knows that. So some are selling like a story that requires a decade of patience and fall on dilution. So there are like a lot of companies like that. But there are some companies that are building like real businesses with real customers, but need like a few years to prove that model. So a few are already generating revenue and moving toward profitability, while the mistake I would say most make is treating all space stocks the same kind of bet. Uh, and I would maybe ask myself like that's what I'm asking myself usually. So this one question, and that is, what does this company need to prove in the next like 18 months, and what would happen if the stock doesn't prove it, right? So if the answer to the second part is the stock falls, I don't know, like 50, 60 or more percent, then I would say make your position size reflect that reality. So that's like the thing that I'm asking myself. And space is generally a long-term investment team.
Right,
So
right.
it rewards patience as all the other industries probably punishes impatience in sometimes. So yeah, I would say these are some rules that I'm using.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if people are acting as traders right now within the space economy and the space stocks,
Hmm.
or if they're truly long-term buyers, because maybe some of them are just waiting for SpaceX to go IPO, and they're just kind of skimming 5 or 10%, off of their profits as this thing,
Hmm.
you know, kind of rockets up, so to speak. Um, but we'll find out soon. I think we'll know pretty soon after the IPO gets out there. Um, I wanted to again thank Matthew Petrovic for his being here today.
Thank you.
Cyclops Space Tech is his company, and you can read it on Substack. I am Phil Pinelli from Stock Talk and the Hard Stack podcast. And we thank so many people that joined today. It was really awesome. And I always enjoy having you, Matthew, on the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
Bye.